Hi, my name is Josh Finley. I am a customer success manager here at Quorum. And today we are going to be going over the planning for getting out the vote strategies and how they can help you maximize your impact in the election. I want to give just a couple housekeeping rules before we dive in. First, this session will be recorded and the recording and slides will be distributed after the event. Second, you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen a chat box and a Q&A submission form. We encourage you to use the chat throughout the session to be able to share insights and submit your questions to the Q&A that we will work through at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm really excited to dive in. Again, my name is Josh Finley. I'm a customer success manager here. For those of you who might not be familiar with Quorum, we're going to go into a little bit of who Quorum is and what we can offer you and your organization. So Quorum is a public affairs software that helps you work smarter and move faster. What I mean by that is in Quorum, you can map, track, change, and report on the policy landscape all in one place. You're able to work smarter when you can map the issues and people that matter most to your organization and track real-time updates on important bills, issues, regulations, and dialogue as things happen. You can then see the impact and make decisions about how to react. You'll be able to move faster to create change. Quorum has powerful tools to help you mobilize stakeholders, advocates, and policymakers to move the needle on your issues. You can also move faster with reporting tools that make it easier to understand your impact and demonstrate it for stakeholders. We pride ourselves on our ability to help solve problems for public affairs professionals better than anyone else. So what makes Quorum different? First, your experience using Quorum is integrated, so you can get information and execute strategy all in one place. Second, we applied customer feedback to build best-in-class software, and that's how we get better at helping you work smarter and move faster year after year. Finally, and I can attest to this, Quorum's customer success is the best and no one else comes close. Your customer success manager will work with you throughout the year, and our on-site support team will provide fast answers to any questions you have along the way. So with that, we're going to move to a little bit of what we're going to do today, what we're going to cover, what's at stake in the upcoming election, why your organization should get involved, and what it means to build a get out the vote timeline, along with get out the vote strategies and tactics, and then we'll finish with a question and answer. So first, what's at stake this year? So outside of just the issues, the 2024 election will impact almost every public policy issue in some way, not just those listed here on the screen. But those are some of the ones that are forefront, and it's definitely not just going to be a federal election. There's a lot of state. So accordingly, the election will impact how almost every single public affairs team operates. The White House, the election will decide which party controls the presidency, and then the election will decide whether one party controls Congress. So the Congress, the entire House is up for election. According to the Cook Political Report, there are 24 toss-up seats, including 10 Democratic seats and 14 Republican. In the Senate, there are 33 seats up for election, including 10 Republican seats and 20 Democratic, 3 independent, and only 3 seats, according to the Cook Political Report, are considered toss-ups, 2 of those being Democratic and 1 independent. We have the governor's race. The election will decide 11 governorships, including 8 Republican seats and 3 Democratic seats. Only 1, an open seat in New Hampshire, is considered a toss-up by the Cook Political Report. Of the 50 state governorships, 26 are Republican and 24 Democrats. Gubernatorial elections will be held in Delaware, Indiana, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Utah, Vermont, Washington, and West Virginia. In the state legislature, 86 of the 99 state legislative chambers are up for elections, meaning thousands of state lawmakers will face voters across 44 states. Currently, Republicans control 55% of the state legislative seats and hold a majority in 57 chambers. Democrats control 44% of legislative seats and hold a majority in 40 chambers. Only the House and Senate in Alaska operate under a bipartisan power sharing agreement. So now that we've told you some of the things that are up for stake in the upcoming 2024 election, why should your organization get involved? So not only do campaigns, they're not just for nonprofits and associations, but they're also for consumers and brands. A lot of it has to deal with providing an opportunity for your organization to have a voice in all of the noise that's out there. We've seen a lot where advocates in your member organizations are looking toward, whether it's corporations, whether it's the organization themselves, for credibility when it comes to the information that's being presented to them. So it's an opportunity for you to not only educate around your priorities, your mission, your goals, but how your members can impact those things along the way. It also provides you representation for your organization in government. And then sometimes it can just facilitate some dialogue along the way. At Quorum, our Get Out the Vote products are built to be bipartisan and nonpartisan by default, but there are opportunities to be able to customize. And if you want it to be partisan, you can. We do recognize that for 501c3 nonprofits, they must be nonpartisan, but that can be an opportunity to be able to, within your Get Out the Vote program, be able to shed light and educate on not just how people can vote, but what are the important policy issues that you're trying to push and where the progress on that stands. So with, understanding a little bit of why it's important for you to be out there, we're going to go over a little bit of a timeline of what it could look like for your organization. So the main theme here is to start early. A lot of organizations start setting budgets around this time of the year. So it's important to be able to know that your organization is secured and allocated the resources for your organization to be able to start a Get Out the Vote program. Also, there's, in this time, primaries are coming up. So there's opportunities for your organization if you're doing local or state, if you want to get involved in that level, helping to provide information on when voter registration deadlines are. There's a lot of opportunity if you start early to start engaging those advocates and become a resource for them sooner rather than later. Strategize. You definitely want to be able to have some kind of plan, what kind of channels and the different approaches you want to take, if you're going to start out on social media, if you want to build something into your website, all of those things are things that you want to be able to plan for. And the earlier you start doing that, the better. And then you're going to start wanting to get your message kind of developed and understanding, your multi-channel approach, what message fits best within each channel. And then ramping it up, starting your outreach efforts, trying to reach out to see if there's volunteers. Your organization is going to be, you don't want to start slacking off the closer you get to it. You want to be able to have the infrastructure ready and available sooner, again, rather than later. And then it's kind of a thing to start, finish strong. After you've started, 1 month out, you want to make sure your messages are everywhere. You want to make sure that the information is available on all channels to everybody who wants, you're sending out keywords, you're sending out emails and newsletters, you're posting out the Get Out the Vote registration Action Center link to be able to send people to ensure that they're ready and knowledgeable when it comes election day. Also, the sooner you do it, early voting is important. So being able to provide information during that time to voters who are early voters, you don't want to just rely on election day. And then you also don't want to just rely on like a victory lap on election day. You want to be able to have your team ready and available for when your advocates are reaching out or being engaged. We want to make sure that you're able to have your team prepared with the information to assist those advocates. And then after the election, having a follow-up, making sure that you're engaging again after everything has been sent out, whether people actually did vote, whether, what the results were, how your organization is going to move forward with the results, what the results mean and the impact. There's a lot of just opportunities to be able to, again, provide education and be a resource when it comes to the champion for your cause. So now that we have kind of gone over the why, the strategies, the different get out the vote timelines, we want to talk about some of the tactics and the strategies that can go along with it. So collecting, storing, and managing voters is absolutely what our product is able to provide. You can start with your existing advocates, whether that's your employees, volunteers, your membership, utilizing where you already have a base is important. Collecting information when it comes to like the address that you can geo-target your messaging, being able to say, hey, from this perspective, we want to make sure that in the state of Florida, their election deadline is this date. Well, we want to be able to make sure that, hey, all of our advocates who are in the state of Florida get our message to be able to say, last day to register to vote is today. Make sure you go. Here's where you can figure out how and what and whether you are. And then storing that information in a centralized database within Quorum allows you to be able to contact not only all voters in one place, but to be able to easily engage and mobilize with that strategy. So it's really important to be able to have some sort of tool when you're doing this, and Quorum is definitely the leader in the industry. Then we can talk about honing your message. Time and time again, we've learned that appealing to emotions is the most effective way to change someone's mind. Appealing to someone's emotion can be done by emphasizing your shared values and connecting those values to potential customers at the polls, potential outcomes at the polls. By creating a narrative that resonates with people emotionally, you can build a passionate and engaged electorate. Your audience is your audience because they care about your organization in some capacity. So they could be employees, members of your association, donors, volunteers, etc. Outline what is at stake for your organization in the upcoming election. Because it matters to you, I would assume it matters to them too. We've also learned that focusing solely on logical arguments can actually turn people away from the polls. No one likes to be talked down to or preached to. When it comes to a Get Out the Vote campaign, you should focus on educating and being that resource. Give them the tools to make an informed decision. So instead of telling them to think, X, Y, or Z, more concretely, your messaging can highlight close races in local elections. You can provide information on a candidate's platform and explain what is on the ballot and what it means for them. Focus on positivity. It can be easy to fall into the trap of fear-mongering. While this may be effective for some audiences, others respond better to positive messaging. So, for example, instead of saying, if you don't vote, then these bad things will happen, you could say, if you vote, then these great things could happen. People want to be a part of something bigger, so let them know how their vote can make that happen. And then be persistent. Most people need more than a single reminder to vote. It's important to be persistent with your Get Out the Vote messaging and use a variety of channels, such as email, text messaging, door-to-door canvassing, and phone calls. And then offer to follow up. Interestingly, a group of Harvard researchers found that Get Out the Vote letters become substantially more effective when they say, we may call you after the election to ask about your voting experience. So just mentioning that you plan to follow up after the election day may lead to an increase in voter turnout. So taking a multi-channel approach, online action centers, creating an online action center is one of the best ways to ensure your Get Out the Vote campaign reaches a broad audience. Organizers can build online action centers with platforms like Quorum Grassroots or Phone to Action. Phone to Action allows visitors to register to vote, check which candidates are running in their district, confirm their elected officials, their current elected officials, and confirm their voting information. So that's whether or not they are registered or not. They can check to see where, if they are, and if not, we can give them information on how and where they can. And so in addition to helping people register, your action centers should include information about the election, voting deadlines, and other resources to help people know when and how to cast the ballot. Advanced public affairs teams using a system like Quorum can incorporate gamification into the Action Center, incentivizing voter registration by assigning points that advocates can use to move up the ladder or engagement. Some teams offer prizes or raffles in exchange for participating in campaigns. So these are just ways of building out an actual get out the vote program, and incentivizing it in certain ways can increase that engagement and the retention of additional advocates. And then social media. Social media can help you reach a broad audience. So including young voters who may not be as responsive to traditional get out the vote tactics like phone banking or canvassing. Consider partnering with social media influencers who have large followings to help further spread your message. We've seen that influencer marketing is a big way to be able to get things to either go viral. I know that when certain influencers do post, it can send a lot of traffic to the sites, and that drives more recruitment, more information, more data for your organization to be able to utilize and capitalize on. And then there is door-to-door canvassing. So while it may seem rather old school, I would say door-to-door canvassing is still one of the most effective ways to engage voters. It represents an opportunity to speak face-to-face with potential voters and answer questions about the upcoming election and the importance of voting. Direct mail, obviously that's sending out information, mailing it to individuals with the addresses that you've been able to collect. Phone banking, calling those phone numbers that you're collecting during on your online election center, and then some postering. Putting out just posters out there where you can in the community. Community partnerships are a great idea to boost your Get Out the Vote campaign, whether it's local organizations, community leaders, collaborating with stakeholders. You can gain endorsements and tap into their networks, which would then ultimately expand your network and the reach of your campaign as well. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but with a system like Quorum, you can manage your community partner engagement with Quorum stakeholder as well. So it's an all integrated platform that when you're out there getting information, you're able to put it somewhere that can easily help your team be more effective and efficient in how their outreach is happening, and then collecting that data as well. There's definitely examples that out there. And I would highly recommend, if you're interested, to reach out to myself. I can provide some additional information. Reach out to, if you're a current, Quorum user, reach out to your customer success manager, and we can, help tailor your individual approach based upon, what resources and what channels you currently are using. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity here at Quorum. And then I would say that when it comes to creating and providing a voting plan for your advocates, thinking about the timeline you're doing it. When are you engaging them? Before election, on election day, when they're at the polling place, and then after voting, encouraging the follow-up. You want to hear from them. Having them post and send pictures of the I voted sticker is a great way to be able to get things out there on social media again. Capturing stories on the experience of the voters when they are voting. There's just a lot of opportunity to be able to engage around that and using a more streamlined strategy and timeline. And then the most important thing I can say is on election day, making sure you're available. Have it be an all hands opportunity. I'd also say give your employees time. I know that kind of sounds a little, contradictory to be all hands, but providing people and planning ahead, providing a schedule so that there are people maintaining, your email, the phones, the volunteers, orchestrating it in a way that not only does everybody have time during the day to be able to go vote, but that you have people who voted early working on election day so that they're available to be able to help provide educational resources and assistance on the day for your specific members who are reaching out. And then again, following up on after election day, how can you and your organization improve? Finding out the methods of where did you capture. So a lot of this is also doing the data beforehand, making sure that you're sourcing where people are coming from so that you can be able to have, and Quorum provides a lot of this reporting metrics to be able to show you, hey, your email was more effective than your social media platform, or your social media posts were the driving traffic to your action center. And then, thanking them for voting. You can say, hey, thanks for your vote. We were able to see, this many people who supported our issue get elected into Congress or the state level. And then asking if there were any obstacles that prevented them from voting. Again, their experience. And if there were obstacles this time around, your organization can, take that as an opportunity to help alleviate or at least minimize those obstacles the next time around. And again, just how can you improve, but what can your organization do better? Where are those areas for you to capitalize on opportunities to engage more voters, to help more people get out to vote? So I think it's not just for the sake of asking, but record these so that you can make your next Get Out the Vote campaign just even better. So that's a lot of strategy. That was a lot of information. But I definitely want to be able to take time now to see what kind of questions are out there from y'all. And if you don't feel comfortable asking right now, if there's anything, here's my contact information for y'all to be able to follow up with. So we're going to see if I have any questions. There's one question so far from any tips for getting executive leaders on board if they're wary about participating in the election? Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things that I've seen be successful is, one, asking what are those hesitations? Like, where is it? Some of them are related to, if you're a nonprofit organization, like, how do we as a 501c3 actually be able to utilize these resources? Because they feel like it's not part of their mission. So again, realizing that, like, it's one, the product itself is built to be nonpartisan and bipartisan. So leveraging the educational side of it, leveraging that we want to be a resource, the credibility to your brand, the collection of data for you to be able to grow your user base, to be able to mobilize more quickly when it comes to having that interaction now. And people who are signing up and registering to vote are clearly engaged citizens and engaged participants in the civic process. So being able to have that information and knowing where those areas that you can capitalize on when you need to leverage a bill or influence a legislator to be a co-sponsor, being able to say that, hey, we had so many people from our organization actually vote in your district this year. So there's a lot of ways that being able to have a getting out the vote registration drive, whatever it is that you're really pushing, can not only position your organization in a way to where you can be a leader and a voice out there for your organization, but the impact and the return on the investment when it comes to the data that you can use and how you can use it to mobilize and influence and grow, I think is definitely something that is an important way to leverage when you're trying to have those conversations with executive leadership. Let's see. Do you have any examples or stories about successful campaigns from past elections? I do. And I know for me personally, there's a lot of organizations that have utilized the Action Center and have streamlined, again, the process for their members and advocates to be able to find that information and be able to register. And, some of the things that come to mind are Walmart, Home Depot. They have had some very successful, but personally, I can say that I was working when I first started at Quorum, which was back with Phone to Action. There was a time where Billie Eilish was actually putting out get out the vote registration opportunities and encouraging people to just find out if they were registered, and if they weren't, to get registered. one of our organizations that partnered, headcount at the time, and they had really utilized the influence marketing. And we were a very startup kind of organization, and just the traffic that she drove to us was insane at the time. And so it was really cool to be able to see that so many people were, and it was a young audience too, that was really engaged in caring about the election at the time. And I think it's very true today, with all the current events happening, the impact that so many state elections are up and local, that more and more people are feeling like they can actually be involved. And so like doing that, I think, is really cool. How can we advocate for the ROI of Get Out the Vote campaigns when limited bandwidth and resources are skepticism? I think one of the things that I could push back on is like the way that the product, especially here at Quorum, works is it's really quick and easy to get it set up, and then it's more about the driving traffic to it. So depending on your resources, if they are limited, I would say that at bare minimum, having an action center on your website that's easily embedded with our tools makes it easy to not only run, but all of that information, once it's put in there, is stored into the database for you. So if you're more worried about limited team members being able, limited funding, whatever it might be, I think that there's a way to make it work, and specifically with the technology out there today, to be able to utilize what's available to make your job more effective and efficient, and not having to spend so much time in creating the campaign, creating the aspect of it. Do you have any specific recommendations for constitutional amendment elections? That's a great question. I think that I would recommend, if your organization is pushing a specific constitutional amendment change, or even if you're pushing to vote against it, I think that the way that our product can customize the information that you put out there, and being able to say like, hey, one, educate. I know that a lot of it is around the wording of specific constitutional amendments, and ensuring that the voters are aware of what each stance means and the impact. And so like, I think that it's important for your organization to be able to be that credible source in providing that educational aspect, being able to say why, if you do support, or if you don't, why, and then just using the action center to be able to drive people to share that information. So I think it depends on your specific strategic approach, whether you're just advocating to get more people out there to vote so that there's a turnout on the amendment, or if you're advocating for a specific position on that amendment, your messaging might change. But I definitely think that either way you go about it, the priority there would be education. Getting people educated around the constitutional when they can, whether they are voted or whether they are registered to vote, and all of that can be done within the product suite here at Quorum. Any other questions? And again, feel free, to reach out directly to myself or someone at Quorum to be able to get information when it comes to the availability of the tools, what we can do, strategies. If you want more specific examples of what it looks like, an active one, all of that are things that we'd be more than happy to be able to share. Otherwise, I don't see any other questions coming in. So with that, what I'm going to say is thank you for taking your time today to join us. It's really exciting to think about the interest in this. And again, the civic participation from your members, encouraging that engagement, is really important. So a recording will be sent out. But if you have any questions, any additional outreach, if you want to talk strategy, your Quorum CSM or myself is more than happy to talk about how this can benefit your organization directly. So thank you again for your time today, and good luck.